Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into the surprisingly simple reason why the weak nuclear force is, well, weak and short-ranged. It's less about quantum weirdness and more about stiffness. Can you believe it?
Stiffness? I'm intrigued. I always assumed it was all down to the mass of the W and Z bosons and some fancy quantum footwork.
That's the common misconception, a fib, as the author calls it. A physics fib. It's true that the W and Z bosons have mass, and that the weak force is short-range, but the mass doesn't cause the short-range. It's the other way around, or rather, both are consequences of something more fundamental.
So what's this fundamental thing? Is it some new particle we haven't discovered yet?
Nope, no new particles. It's the stiffness of the W and Z fields themselves. Think of it like this. A stiff field resists being disturbed. Consistency. It takes more energy to make a stiff field deviate from its average value. This resistance limits how far the force's influence can reach.
Okay, I'm following. Sort of. So, a stiff field means a short-range force. Got it. But how does that relate to the mass of the W and Z bosons?
Excellent question. The stiffness of the field also affects how its waves behave. In quantum field theory, these waves are what we call particles. A stiff field's waves tend to bunch up, creating these localized, stationary vibrations, which is what gives the W and Z bosons their mass. It's like a taut string. It takes more energy to make it vibrate.
So the mass is a consequence of the stiffness, not the cause of the short range. That's a mind bender.
Exactly. The author uses a great analogy. Imagine a taut string versus a floppy one. Pulling on the middle of a floppy string affects the whole thing, but a taut string only deforms locally. The stiffness limits the range of the disturbance. The same principle applies to the W and Z fields.
I see. That's a much more elegant explanation than the usual virtual particle mumbo-jumbo. So, no uncertainty principle needed?
Nope. The short range is a purely classical effect, understandable even without quantum mechanics. The quantum aspect comes in when we talk about the particles themselves, the indivisible wave packets, and their mass, but not the range of the force.
This completely changes my understanding of the weak force. It's so much clearer now. But what about the virtual particles? Aren't they a key part of the picture?
The author argues that virtual particles are just a mathematical tool, a way of representing the field's shape. They're not actually little particles zipping around. Feynman diagrams are useful for calculations, but they can obscure the underlying physics.
Interesting. So the whole thing boils down to the stiffness of the field determining both the short range of the force and the mass of its associated particles. A remarkably simple explanation for something that seemed so complex.
Precisely. It's a testament to the elegance of fundamental physics, and it highlights how easy it is to get caught up in the mathematical formalism and lose sight of the underlying physical intuition. Amazing, right?
Absolutely. Thanks for shedding light on this. I'm definitely going to revisit this article and delve deeper into the mathematical details.
You're very welcome. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Join us tomorrow for another fascinating exploration of the world of technology and science. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.